When it comes to watches, looks do matter. I know there's a lot more under the surface that makes a watch great, like the materials, the movement ticking away inside, the complications it offers, and of course the price tag. But for so many of us, it's that first glance, that gut reaction that really hooks us. A beautiful watch can get stuck in your head, making you imagine what it'd be like to own it, to have it on your wrist. Now, taste is super personal, and what stops me in my tracks might not do it for you. And that's the fun of it. This list isn't claiming to be the definitive top 10 for everyone. Instead, it's a lineup of watches that I, along with many other collectors and enthusiasts that I trust, just can't get enough of. These are timepieces I can barely fault in their looks, and to back their appearance up, they also have top-notch craftsmanship, quality materials, and killer movements to boot. With that in mind, I pulled together a selection of the best-looking watches that, in my eyes, get it exactly right. They combine standout design, thoughtful details, and unmistakable character that turn heads, spark conversations, and look just as good in the hand as they do on the wrist. Breitling Navitimer. Starting us off strong is the Breitling Navitimer, a watch that's as iconic as they come and instantly recognizable from across the room. What makes the Navitimer so striking is its distinctive, finely ratched bezel, paired with the slide rule scale circling the dial. Originally designed for pilots, this clever feature allows quick calculations for things like fuel consumption, airspeed, and distance. Though let's be honest, most of us admire it more for its intricate old-school charm than its mathematical utility. At the heart of the dial, you'll find a classic tri-compax layout, with 3 recessed subdials giving the face beautiful depth and balance. It's busy, but intentionally so, with every element having its place. Then there's the finishing touch, the winged Breitling logo at 12 o'clock, sitting proudly like a crown at the top of the dial. The RRP starts from $4,500. Tudor Black Bay. Next up is the Tudor Black Bay, a watch that to me perfectly balances heritage, charm with modern practicality. It can thank much of its aesthetic to its past, cleverly nodding to Tudor's rich dive, watch history without feeling stuck in the past. It doesn't copy one specific model, but rather blends design cues from several of Tudor's most iconic divers, creating something both timeless and fresh. One of the standout details has to be those famous Snowflake hands, originally introduced in the late 1960s. Their bold, angular shape isn't just practical for underwater legibility, but it's become a signature design element that instantly marks this as a Tudor. Paired with a clean, matte dial and large luminous markers, the watch has a striking, purposeful look that feels confident without trying too hard. I'll also forever love the subtle gilt accents and splash of color on the bezel that adds the perfect amount of vintage character. Top of form. RRP starts from $4,375. Omega Speedmaster. The Omega Speedmaster, also known as the Moonwatch, has a design that's just as impressive as its history. It's a watch tied to NASA's space missions and the first watch worn on the lunar surface. Its centerpiece is the glossy all-black dial paired with matching black chronograph counters for a clean, balanced, and unmistakably purposeful look. Encircling the dial is the ultra-thin black tachometer bezel, a sleek, functional detail that's become one of the Speedmaster's most defining features. The piston-shaped chronograph pushers add a touch of vintage charm while providing that satisfyingly mechanical feel every time they're pressed. Finally, while the modern sapphire crystal models offer a crisp contemporary edge, it's the original Hesalite-equipped versions that are my favorite part of the Speedmaster's character. The Hesalite might mark more easily, but it brings a soft warmth and vintage distortion that adds real soul to the watch. The RRP starts from $5,600. Grand Seiko Snowflake. There are several Grand Seiko models lovingly nicknamed the Snowflake, but honestly, it's impossible to pick just one. There's something about that unique textured dial that makes any watch bearing it an instant beauty. Inspired by freshly fallen snow, the dial's delicate, almost organic pattern catches the light in subtle, ever-changing ways, giving the surface a sense of depth and quiet elegance. While the texture has appeared in different colors over the years, the crisp white remains the undisputed classic. A personal favorite in the Grand Seiko SBGA 211. It pairs that iconic snow white dial with a beautifully blued seconds hand, gliding smoothly thanks to Grand Seiko's spring drive movement and super slim silvered hand applied markers. It also boasts a lightweight titanium case combining sharp polished surfaces with soft satin brushes, a showcase of Grand Seiko's renowned Zaratsu polishing technique. The RRP, $6,600. Tissot PRX. Not all good-looking watches have to cost thousands. In fact, one of the watches I own that gets more compliments than any other is my Tissot PRX. It's an integrated sports watch with the most incredible flat-brushed surfaces, a brightly polished bezel, and a sunray brushed dial that gives it real depth. The way the light plays off the case and dial is seriously impressive. It's a combination of finishes that just works and gives the watch a much more refined presence than the price suggests. And with so many stunning dial colors and 2 different movement types to choose from, there's something for every taste and budget. The RRP starts from just $395. Seiko Prospex Speedtimer. Another one of the best-looking affordable watches out there right now has to be the Seiko Prospex Speedtimer Solar Chronograph, especially the Panda Dial Reference SSC 813. It absolutely nails the design. The crisp black and white dial has that classic motorsport look, and the slim black tachometer bezel gives it a clean, balanced profile. The sword-shaped hands glow in the dark, adding a functional, almost tactical edge that still feels refined. There's a definite Rolex Daytona feel to it, but it's very much its own thing. Vintage-inspired, but fresh and unmistakably Seiko. It's sporty, sharp, and just incredibly well executed for the price. The proportions are spot on too. The detailing is tight, and it looks way more expensive than it is. A perfect example of how you don't need to spend a fortune to wear something that turns heads. RRP, $695. Longines Legend Diver. The Longines Legend Diver is one of those watches that proves style and substance don't have to live at opposite ends of the price spectrum. The 39mm version, especially with that glossy blue or black lacquer dial, is absolutely stunning. What really makes it stand out is the internal rotating bezel and twin crown layout, which is a fun throwback to the 1959 super compressor era that feels refreshingly different from the sea of standard external bezel divers. The mix of brushed and polished finishes gives it real visual depth, especially paired with the beautifully made beads of rice bracelet. And because the bezel is tucked under the crystal, the whole design feels more elegant and less chunky than your average tool diver. The proportions are spot on too, at 39mm wide and under 13mm thick, all while still packing 300 meters of water resistance. It wears like a dream and looks far more upscale than you'd expect for the price. There aren't many watches, or brands for that matter, that could release a piece with no logo in sight and still have people immediately know what it is. But the Moser Cie Endeavour is the exception to that rule. It's bold in the most understated way, built around the idea that true luxury doesn't need to shout. The Endeavour collection strips everything back to the essentials and somehow ends up more distinctive than most watches packed with design flourishes. It's not going to be to everyone's taste, but you have to respect a watch that dares to be this different. One version in particular, the Endeavour Center Seconds Vanta Black, takes minimalism to a whole new level. The dial is coated in Vanta Black, the blackest man-made material in existence, developed for astrophysics and capable of absorbing 99.965% of visible light. The result is otherworldly, creating a dial that looks like a void, a portal, something that just shouldn't exist on a wristwatch. Metal hour markers are applied underneath the dial, adding a surreal sense of depth, while polished leaf-shaped hands seem to float in space. It's a watch that feels rich and refined, experimental and elegant. To me, that's what makes a good-looking watch, not just how it shines, but how confidently it does its own thing. The RRP starts from $18,000. The Rolex Datejust 36. There are few watches more instantly recognizable than the Rolex Datejust 36. It's one of those rare designs where every single detail, from the fluted bezel, jubilee bracelet, and magnified date window, feels so familiar and so distinctively Rolex that it really couldn't be anything else. That's the sign of a great design. It's a watch that doesn't need wild colors or complicated dials to stand out. Its beauty lies in its simplicity and refinement. The 36mm case plays a big part in that, standing out with its classic oyster shape that wears perfectly on just about any wrist. The mix of polished and brushed finishing is sharp and flawless, and the materials, whether it's Rolex proprietary oyster steel or their Ever-Rose Rolecer two-tone gold, make it a big difference in how the watch feels and wears. The RRP starts from $6,000. The Cartier Tank. We can't wrap this up without mentioning one of the most iconic watch designs of all time, the Cartier Tank. With its clean, rectangular case inspired by the shape of World War I tank threads viewed from above, the Tank is pure design elegance distilled into a watch. It's been around since 1917 and feels just as modern today, which says everything about how strong the original concept really was. The Roman numerals and the chemin de fer minute track, those sharp blue steel hands, and the sapphire cabochon on the crown all work perfectly together. They're elements that aren't just decorative, but a part of a language that Cartier has been speaking fluently for over a century. The proportions are always spot on, the finishing is crisp and refined, and there's a version out there for just about every style. To me, it's arguably one of the best-looking dress watches ever made. The RRP starts from $3,400. When it comes to great-looking watches, there's no one-size-fits-all answer, and that's exactly what makes this hobby so much fun. From understated minimalism to bold, sometimes explosive designs, there's a huge spectrum of styles out there, each offering something unique. Some of these watches come with a hefty price tag, others are more accessible, but all earn their place by doing one thing really well: looking fantastic. Design will always be subjective. What catches one person's eye might be invisible to another, but the watches featured here all show how powerful thoughtful design, quality materials, and attention to detail can be.